Welcome to Soul Searching. Today we're going to talk about the Morse Mill Hotel, where we did an investigation from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. But first I'd like to introduce you to Michelle. She's a DJ at K-Wolf, which is 101.7
FM. Yeah.
Right.
Streaming at www.k-wulf.com.
Cool. And they're one of our sponsors. And Michelle went on this investigation with us. So what'd you think about Morse Mill?
I honestly was so tired. I really should have napped. I should have pre-gamed for that. I had a busy day. And so some of it towards the end is so fuzzy because I was like dozing off. But there were episodes in there where I felt some kind of connection, like something really was going on. I'm kind of a in-between believer. I'm in between Shannon, who completely believes in ghosts, and Katie, who has no belief in ghosts whatsoever. I'm somewhere in between that. So there were things that moved me. I'm still not as convinced as you, but I'm more convinced before I went there.
Did you know that Travel Channel did a story on the Morse Mill Hotel?
Oh, really? So did they went in and did a full investigation? Now, was this before the rehab? That when we came in, they were rehabbing?
Yeah, right.
So
right. It's before a lot of the changes.
I kind of wish I would have saw it when you guys saw it before any of that rehab came in.
It's a lot different now. I've been there 3 times. The first time was in the 80s. The second time was around 2011. And then when we just went.
So, but the first 2 times it was more of the old antique.
More authentic. The current owner has done a lot of recent
it's going to be a very cool bed and breakfast when they get it going.
Oh, it's very nice.
And the rooms are going to be
really
expansive.
nice.
It's going to be beautiful, but it just really kind of took away a little bit of the effect.
One thing that's interesting is the renovations, and you think that it may have changed the paranormal activity. But wait till you find out how many times this place has changed. And the paranormal activity is still
stayed with
there.
every renovation.
Yeah. So
okay.
It's gone through some changes over the years. It just seems creepier when you go in a place and it's
all
run
antique-ish
down, and it looks like
it
hasn't
plywood,
been redone in 100 years and all that sort of thing. But anyway, there was a show for Travel Channel, Most Terrifying Places in America.
And that was on the list?
Yeah, they did a show at the Morse Mill Hotel.
Wow.
So let's talk about the Morse Mill Hotel. Morse Mill, it's a river town on the Big River in Jefferson County, Missouri. Now, if we go way back in this area, this whole general area of Jefferson County, Missouri, they found Native American artifacts dating back over 1,000 years. There's evidence of the existence of the mound builders had been there at one time too. So that's the really far back ancient history. But the story really starts to begin where you can find more evidence is in the 1700s when it was over Spanish rule. Jefferson County, Missouri was mostly settled in the eastern part near the Mississippi River. And when you started expanding westward in Jefferson County, it was an area that was really harsh and rugged. And it was an area where there were claims that there was a heavy influence of witchcraft and sorcery. It was also an area where nobody wanted to settle, not just because of the witchcraft, but the Osage Indians, who were not friendly to settlers at all. So there were many bloody conflicts that went on and a lot of losses on both sides. So this area, they wanted to get settlers to go out there. And so the Spanish were given land grants, and they gave a land grant to Mark and Frances Weidman. Mark built this farmhouse in 1816, which eventually becomes the Morse Mill Hotel, like in the 1920s.
Okay.
And he has this farm he operates, and he and his brother Francis built a mill, and they operated that. Now, Mark claimed that Francis was a witch, and that he did spells and conjurings. In fact, I found a statement where Mark had claimed that he saw Francis conjure the devil. So I think it's really interesting that this far back history, we have Native American history, where there's not a whole lot of good history there once the settlers arrived. Burial grounds, ceremonies, and we have the first owners, the person who built the house, brother. Well, now Mark wasn't the conjurer. His brother Francis is supposedly, allegedly, the conjurer. So in 1847, the history gets a little lighter. It's not quite as dark. A guy named John Morris, he was a 28-year-old farmer. He moved here from Massachusetts, and he settled in Morse Mill. In 1856, he purchased the property from Mark Weidman. By the 1870s, he decided to expand it and make it his private residence. So he took the small farmhouse that which is on the basement, and he made the property a little bigger. From what I read, he made it 3 stories high, and he made like a New Orleans style balcony. But prior, to that, because he wasn't living there, he did allow it to be used as a Civil War prisoner hospital, and it was also supposedly a link along the Underground Railroad. What's interesting about John Morse is he was an industrialist. He built the first rock road from Morse Mill to Fenton in the Jefferson County, linking those, which is now known as Graveway Road. He built the Sandy Creek Covered Bridge, which is a landmark now here in the state of Missouri. In Jefferson County. He built the Iron Bridge, which crossed the big river, and he built a grits mill, a mill for grain. It was the most successful mill in southeast Missouri.
Oh, wow.
Right. So, and most prosperous and successful mill there was until the Depression. That's when it closed. And then in the 1940s, they decided to tear it down, but they left the foundation of the mill is still there. The Iron Bridge is still there. And this is all just right down from the property where the Morse Mill Hotel sits. Now, what I think is also really kind of cool is that when he built all these things, he employed freed slaves to build these things.
Good for him.
Even his own residence, when he expanded that, he employed freed slaves. Some people say he fought for the Civil War. He was a Civil War Confederate sympathizer, but the information I found was the opposite, that he was an avowed abolitionist. And I kind of tend to believe that story because he was from Massachusetts, his wife was from Vermont, and then he employed freed slaves.
Right. All leads to abolitionists.
He also was a state senator from 1866 to 1870, and he was also appointed postmaster of Morse Mill in 1878.
So during his span of expanding this and being in the motel, and it wasn't even a motel at that point when it was a mill, is there any talk of hauntings during this period of time?
No, not that I could find. Right. I mean, he was a politician. He was a businessman. I think if he had said anything like that, it would have been frowned upon. He died in 1890, and after his death, the house became a stagecoach stop. And at that point, 18 rooms were added onto it. And it became the Riverside Hotel. That's when a lot of stuff started happening. The postmaster at that time is said to have been murdered. For a while, it became a brothel, and a prostitute there was beaten to death. Prior to we having the gas chamber in Missouri, when somebody was sentenced to death, it was just done in the place where the person was sentenced. So there were a lot of legal hangings, and there were a lot of illegal hangings as well.
That happened on the property?
Exactly.
Okay.
So it starts becoming a happening place, but then there's that criminal element too, because what police are going to follow you out to Morse Mill, Missouri, right? So it was attractive. And then we got Prohibition that kicks in, right? So in the 20s, it really became the hot spot. It was a gambling hall, speakeasy. In fact, Al Capone was said to stay there.
Oh, wow.
If you read some of the accounts of people who lived in the area, they would tell you that the Morse Mill Hotel, which was the Riverside Hotel at that point, was a really happening place. And it continued like that. It attracted visitors all throughout the world. We had Al Capone like to stay there, Charles Lindbergh liked to stay there, and Charlie Chaplin was a regular there. And there were accounts, they said he was a big womanizer. So everybody was playing at the Riverside Hotel. Now, I'm not sure when it changed to Morse Mill Hotel. I got a feeling that Morse Mill Hotel probably stuck because it was in Morse Mill, and it just kind of
was always its second name or something.
Yeah, and it ended up overpowering Riverside Motel. Eventually, what started happening, it started dying out. They had vacation cottages and all that, and it started dying out because highways started getting built. And guess where the new hotspot was? Lake of the Ozarks.
Lake of the Ozarks.
So now we got a way people can get to Lake of the Ozarks, and so Morse Mill became abandoned. After that, it went into private ownership. and it wasn't operated as a hotel anymore. And so it got a little dilapidated because such a big place like that, it takes a lot of money to operate that. And quite honestly, people in Jefferson County, most of the people who live here, don't have that kind of money. Another interesting thing about the Morse Mill Hotel is that Bertha Gifford stayed there. Do you guys know who Bertha Gifford was?
She's the first female serial killer?
Yeah, arguably, because there are other claims to fame or infamy. But anyway, she stayed there, and she stayed there with her first husband, Henry. Supposedly, he was her first victim. She poisoned him with arsenic, and it's said that she did that at the hotel. She went on to, they say, kill somewhere between 17 and 23 people, and this included children with arsenic poisoning. And what she would do is she was one of these ladies who would go around and nurse people, and she just got the thrill of everybody saying, "Oh, Bertha, you're so wonderful,"
helping them,
right. But she was actually the one who was making them sick, and then eventually they would die. She was arrested in 1928 in Catawissa, Missouri. Most of her crimes took place in St. Clair, I believe it was.
But still, the husband dying there is still rumored. There's no actual documented proof.
But Jefferson County, Missouri, defined documentation on certain things, but it's just, I guess you could say it's lore. There's no proof that she did that, but there is proof that she stayed there because they have the old books that people signed in, and that's how they know Al Capone and all those other famous people were there as well. Henry Graham, her first husband, is buried just down from the Morse Mill Hotel. I mean, you can see the cemetery from the hotel. And Bertha Gifford is buried not next to each other, fortunately, but buried in that same cemetery. And there's even some other victims of hers that are buried in that cemetery, including a child. I believe her name was Beulah. The first time I went to the Morse Mill Hotel was in 1986, and it was a private residence at that point. And she was an elderly lady, and she was using it to allow people who were homeless to stay there. The lady said that the men who stayed there would be inappropriately touched. Their pants would be unzipped. In fact, I found an account from when the film crew from Travel Channel was there. The cameraman even claimed that his pants were unzipped, and he was really annoyed by it. And they attribute this to the prostitute who was beaten to death there. They think it's she who is going around and inappropriately touching all these men. They think there's in the basement area. Now, the basement area was built by Mark Weidman, so it's an original part that existed back in 1816. And they think there's a ghost there named Annabelle, of all names, a child ghost. Yeah, so I think that's interesting too, because I don't know, sometimes they say child hauntings aren't quite children, they're
more of a demon.
Yeah, so who knows, because there are claims that they hear growling in the basement as well, and people have claimed that they've been touched, slapped, scratched, shoved, pushed, thrown. So that's not typical haunting activity.
It's more demonic.
Up in the attic, they claim that there's a veiled elderly woman that looks out the window towards the river. Neighbors claim they'll drive by and they'll see her there when nobody's at the hotel. They also claim that in the attic, there's another spirit of a child, and visitors actually take toys and put them there to see if the child will move the toys, and many people have said that the child does move the toys. Also in the basement, they claim a slave haunts the basement, and there's a big stone down there that the owner claims is a slave stone, and the claim that an old slave haunts the basement along with this child spirit. So, and people claim that they hear footsteps follow up the basement steps. People claim they see shadow people on the outside of the property, as well as like walking down the roads. So the whole area is supposedly haunted. People see faces in mirrors. They hear music, whispers, growls, footsteps, breaths down their neck. They feel touched, scratched, thrown, shoved, poked. Objects levitate and batteries drain dry. In fact, an account from one of the people from the Travel Channel claimed that his camera levitated. Let's get into what we did. You ready to see that?
Yeah.
You know, as you said after you were there, that you kind of, you know, changed your opinions a little bit, maybe swayed. Well, I'm curious to know what you're going to think after you see what we captured. Well, I'm going to just start by how we did the house. And the first place we all went was up in the attic, and we got orbs. Here it is. It's in this area. See it?
So that couldn't be like a car from driving outside, like reflecting from one of the windows?
It's possible.
No, but it like goes over that wall and then it goes over these two things and it looks exactly the same. It doesn't augment or anything. So I'm thinking it's a lightning bug.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking maybe a bug. And in that first orb, I was thinking, because we all came up there, it was really dusty because of renovations.
Yeah, there's dust everywhere.
Yeah, I'm thinking
Any orbs in that house are questionable.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. Plus, we didn't capture any EVPs in the attic, so that throws out any kind of validation that there may be. And then there's another one. It's more of an arc. This is just on the stationary camera. Nobody's up here. There it is. Did you see the arc? So what did you think about that? Those orbs in the arc.
Just because of all the dust, even though we weren't up there anymore, I mean, we stirred up so much dust in that house. I mean, my shoes were coated when I got home.
It is notable that there was no, at this point
no
in time,
activity up there.
Well, nobody was up there, that's true. Even the heat wasn't on or anything. They turned it on much later in the night, so there was no ventilation going. Right. But there were, 8 of us that came up there, walked around and all that. And
so the one earlier kind of looked like a lightning bug, the arc?
Yeah, the flashing one looked like a bug, possibly, but it was interesting. Orbs are just so unreliable.
The amount of dust in this house, any orb is questionable as far as I'm concerned in this place.
Right, but I think they're fun to look at. And, you never know what if. Right. So
Absolutely.
It's interesting to
what do you
point
think,
it out.
Was it a little demon flying around?
Probably a bug.
If we had gotten like an EVP at the same time or something, but we didn't.
Something to back it up a little bit. Yeah.
Right. There was no, on the audio, there was nothing that got captured during that stationary camera while it was up there. So what we did, we left the attic, left the stationary camera. Then we went down to the second floor and we kind of all just walked
personally
around.
Seemed like it had a little more activity. And it may be because all of us were roaming around and making so much noise that it seemed like there was more activity on that floor, but I felt more on that second floor than I did up in the attic.
Well, I think the second floor was probably, in the basement, is probably where we saw the most activity, where we got the most interaction.
And that's where I personally, I don't know anything about any of the equipment. I don't have any equipment, so it's just me and my personal feeling. And the second floor and the basement, to me, I felt more things were going on there. The attic just was cold and empty and dusty, as far as I was concerned.
There were some interesting things that happened on the second floor when everybody was walking around with Jody and her Perilous. And remember, you were telling that story.
That was interesting. She was, and that conversation actually started in the attic. And she was talking, as we were coming down the steps, she was talking to a young boy, and they were going back and forth and asking questions, and some of it came back like she said, like Obama, really stupid answers that didn't make any sense. But she kept asking him where he was in the house, and he kept saying 111, and we're like, 111, what does that mean?
Weird.
Well, yeah, exactly. And this was from room to room to room, and Katie was with me at that point. We walk into one of the far rooms that was more renovated than most, actually had the beginnings of a kitchen and the bathroom, and it looked like it was going to be the room soonest done. And we're walking around, and I looked out on the floor, numbers that you would see on the side of a mailbox, there were 3 ones laying on the floor. 111. To me, that was like chills. That's okay.
Yeah, that's
okay.
really
That
cool.
connects. But whether there's anything to it, Katie says total coincidence.
Yeah, and I think on the Paralist it was only just one. It wasn't 3 ones. It was just 1.
I could have swore I heard him say 111, 111, like on several different occasions.
I'll
But
look
I
at
was
the footage
really
to see,
tired,
but
so
I think it was just 1. It just came up with a 1 every once in a while. It would spit out numbers occasionally, and I think it came up with 1 a couple of times.
Well, the thing about the Paralist, nothing's ever come up where we could totally say, hey, this is legitimate.
on the second floor, when we first came up, you went this way, and there's kind of like what was going to be looked like a communal washroom, like a washer dryer area
Right.
kind of thing. The room that was on this side, I didn't want to go into.
Oh, wow.
I walked into there, I felt really uncomfortable. I think Danielle was right behind me, and she's like, no, it's all dark, there's no light, let's check it out. I'm like, not going in there. And I didn't go any further in that room.
Even the owners today, they say that there's nothing that happens that's demonic or anything like that. But it's got some of those signs that there
anytime
could be
kids are involved in your communicating with children, I always think that leans more demonic than anything
and then
else.
the fact that people have said they've been slapped, thrown, scratched, sometimes that could just be a human spirit trying to get your attention. That's possible.
So Katie's over here rolling her eyes. So you don't think anybody's ever been like physically... Have you ever been you've been in a lot of places. You've been in way more haunted places than I have. You've never had anybody you felt like touched you or caressed you?
When I was in the attic, I felt a weird thing on my neck, but that's because my skin's weird.
But that is one claim, that people feel a breath on the back of their neck.
No, not a breath. It was like on my neck. It was itchy and it was burning.
Okay, that's different.
And you're like, oh, that's when you get scratched. And I'm like, sick! Did I finally get scratched by a demon?
She was hoping to find like 4 bloody claw
Yeah,
marks across her neck.
Well, she's because she don't believe she's so brave. So the owner said that there's a spirit Freddy on the second floor too, and that may be who you were feeling, and that he's not
very mean.
Right.
Yeah.
So she went up there by herself in the dark, trying to provoke him.
Yeah, you did for a while.
I got nothing.
Yeah, and it wasn't even an EVP.
I didn't even get wigged out or anything.
And another thing I noticed too when we went, because we were kind of walking around, and that's when the thing with Eli happened. Then we went down to the first floor. I felt nothing.
I think the first floor is such a greeting place. It's too commercial, and any spirit that's in there is like...
It's probably the most changed area of the hotel.
Looks nothing like what it originally was.
When I was there the 2 previous times, it doesn't. I'm not saying it doesn't look nice, but it just doesn't look anything like it used to look. Right. But this place has been changed and renovated quite a bit over its entire lifetime.
The area that really hasn't been touched all that much would be the basement.
Right.
And that's where I felt were the stronger feelings and more things going on down there.
Okay, we didn't get anything on that first floor. And we went back up to the second floor, and we all went in a room, and we decided to do an EVP session and a pendulum session with Jody. Jody is a witch, so she, of course, brought her tarot cards and her pendulum. And we got an orb. Now, one thing about Jody is she seemed to really get connected with this place. On the second floor, it was kind of more negatively connected. But when we get to the basement, we'll talk more about Jody having more positive experiences. But on the second floor, I think her crystals and her pendulum and her tarot cards were not as well received.
To me, that is more maybe like what Kitty. It's either a bug or something paranormal. That's definitely not a piece of dust floating around. That's definitely not.
And Tim, for me,
because it has movement. It's not floating. It actually has like a preordained movement.
And guess what?
What?
We caught EVPs at the same time.
Okay, see, now that backs up that little...
Right, it gives it a little more validity.
Right.
So this first EVP, we're up here on the second floor, we got that orb, and we also got an EVP at the same time.
Do you like the toys I brought? Do you like the toys I brought? Do you like the toys I brought?
It seems like in that John Morris section of the place, and the later Riverside Motel area.
That.
Yeah, it was. She got more of a negative response to her toys. And then we got another one. Katie can't hear this one, but I want you to listen because I think it's there, plain as day.
Oh, I did hear it.
Yeah. See,
It's
I'm not
very
crazy.
subtle, but
Miss
it's very
Katie.
subtle. You can. It's like.
Well, you know, the first EVPs I got there in 2011, one reason why I didn't do anything with them, because they were so quiet. Like, a lot of
That
places...
was very subtle.
A lot of places you go, the EVPs are much more pronounced. At the Morse Mill Hotel, it seems to me that they're very, very low EVPs. It's there. Tell her I'm not crazy.
No, she's not crazy. I heard it. She might still be crazy.
It's
but I
my
can hear
favorite
it.
EVP of the whole night, too. You can go. I love it.
There might be something there, but like your brain's just coming up with something for it to be, rather than it just being somebody breathing out or something.
I think it's plain as day, though. Is it plain as day to you?
I wouldn't call it plain as day, but it's very subtle, and you can hear the you can go.
Yeah. I think there's validation to Jody's orb. And also, I thought, because Kathy was in there too, and I thought I saw something behind her. So I took a picture on my thermal, and I was all excited. That's a picture of Kathy. And see that behind her? Because I thought I saw something behind her.
Wasn't that a window though?
No, that was a
No,
wall.
it was just a
was a
wall.
wall.
But
Is it the reflection?
she debunked me. So,
Okay, what was your debunk?
This is a picture of our cat Tiger on the coffee table
no, on the floor.
or the floor.
And there's a shadow. It's your heat signature.
Throws a shadow.
It
apparently.
reflects. Heat reflects because the wall isn't a perfect black body. It's gonna reflect some heat.
Okay.
But that was a cool picture until Miss Science.
Oh, damn me and my science.
Damn it.
We had the orb, we had 2 EVPs, and then also she had trouble with her light because the batteries were draining. My recorder, my digital recorder, which I've had since, I don't know, 10 years, it's never shut off automatically on me. It
You
did
had
that.
trouble with it the whole
It
night,
kept
didn't you?
the whole
Yeah.
night at the hotel, and it ended up draining my batteries during this session. I had to replace the batteries. She had to replace her batteries. Jody had to replace her batteries.
Let me just say,
All 3 of us.
the reason I had to replace my batteries is because I hadn't replaced them since we did the pen, and the pen was like 5 hours. You've had your recorder 10 years, it might just be breaking down, and Jody may have not changed her batteries since the pen either. Because
But
she was
it's
at the pen.
kind of interesting that all 3 of us who had electronics on us had to change our batteries after this EVP pendulum session on the 2nd floor. You got to say that's interesting. You think it's interesting, Michelle?
I think it's interesting.
Yes.
She does not.
I hope you think it's interesting too.
She thinks we're just all incapable of charging our batteries.
What we did after that, we took a break. I went outside. I had my digital recorder because there's stories of the outside being haunted as well, the shadow people, and I got an EVP.
I thought you said you could kill me too.
I thought it was kill me. Katie thinks it's show me.
Sounds like somebody kill me.
The first noise sounds like mom. Like.
Oh, you think that's her? Where I'm thinking, where you're saying somebody?
It's just the 2 of us alone outside in the dark.
What it could be is you breathing out. Your brain is just coming up with something.
Could be. Could be. Okay, well, she's not.
I think you're
impressed.
reaching there, Katie.
I'm not reaching. That's what brains
Oh, it's
do.
so nice to have you here, Michelle. It's so nice.
That one was
Yes.
definitely a male voice. Definitely a male voice.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think I breathe kill me.
I didn't think you said kill me. I think you just breathed.
And it sounded like kill me.
Yeah.
I'm so talented. What did that sound like?
I'm so talented.
Very good. Okay. So when we went back from, we had our break, and we ate some snacks, and we decided to go down in the basement and do another EVP perilous / pendulum session. We got an orb down there. See, there's the slave stone.
Right, I remember.
Did you see it?
I did not.
It comes out from here. Yeah, it's a very dusty area down there too.
See that? What I mean? That just kind of like...
Been said on video when we're in the basement, I see so much dust coming through my light.
It does look like dust. I have to say that.
Yeah, it's just a...
Okay, so these look like dust too, I think. See this in the picture? There's 2 of them. Mm-hmm. And if you look at that one, it almost looks like a face, don't it? A profile.
A little bit.
I think that's just a phenomenon called, I think it's pareidolia, where your brain wants you to see images like she was talking about. But these look like dust because they look like snowy.
Right.
But that one I think is really interesting. But I think that's pareidolia, where my brain just wants to see a face there. And then there's like a mist on your legs and Jennifer's legs, and I think that's dust too.
God, I look tired. Did I look tired? I told you I was tired.
Look at that around you and Jennifer.
Oh, okay.
And then there's another picture taken right after that where there isn't anything there. But I think it's probably dust. Although they say if you take 3 shots at the Morse Mill Hotel, the middle picture always shows something. So, I don't know. I think it's her light showing dust floating around. That's what I think it is.
Possibly.
So that's when we first went in the basement. We all got situated. We started our EVP session. And again, this part here was built by Mark Weidman. And Jody actually had a different energy here. It was like she was mostly accepted.
Yeah, she was having a pretty in-depth conversation.
Yeah, I mean, and we got K2 responses, and the K2 would light up when, we'd say things like, do you like Jody? And we got another EVP. I don't know what this says. I think that it's something me.
What do you want out for? What do you want out for? What do you want out for?
Sounds like you said right.
Yeah, I thought it was like wreck me or... And what she's talking about, what do you want now for, her crystals had fallen out of her box.
Mm-hmm.
So she was talking to her crystals when we got that. And it almost sounds...
It's a guy.
Yeah, and there's supposed to be that slave male that haunts that basement.
In the basement. And we have to make it clear there were no males with us.
Right,
so
we were all
voices,
women
all
on
women.
this trip. There were no men with us. But I can't make out what it says.
Sound like he was like, yeah, right, or right.
I thought I said something me. Didn't you hear a me in there? You didn't hear a me?
Mm-mm.
I can't make that one out, but there's definitely a voice there, I think.
What'd you think, Katie?
Sounds like a breath.
Well, we caught another EVP. I asked, are you alone?
Are you alone?
It's really soft.
I can't make out what they're saying, though.
I think it says, help me.
Huh. Yeah, that one I can't really make out, but there's something there.
Yeah, I think it says, help me.
And I can't even tell if that's male or female.
It sounded like that same male voice. That's the thing, too. I mean, there were a lot of things I thought were EVPs, but I threw them out because they were so soft like that, because she said that she couldn't hear anything, but I definitely hear that one, and I think it says help me. So what we decided to do, because Jody was getting so much positive interaction with the spirit,
Kind of just left her down there.
yeah, we decided to leave her alone in the dark and see if anything would happen. As everybody left and went upstairs, I was still kind of there with her, and I left my recorder, and so when I went to shut the door, caught an EVP.
Mother? Did he say mother?
I think it says murder.
Murder.
I think it sounds like somebody upstairs.
I don't think it sounds distant.
I don't either. I thought he said mother.
Let's
Maybe
hear it
was
again.
It has like echo and everything, like it's upstairs.
I don't think so.
Well, there's nobody standing upstairs going murder.
Yeah, I was
don't think
alone.
they said murder. I think it's just something taken out of context and you thought it sounded like murder.
Everybody else was gone.
Yeah, upstairs.
That's another one. Up to you. I think it says murder. I think obviously there is a man down there who's haunting the area, just based on the EVPs. I don't know about the child they claim. Let me tell you, I didn't get touched or slapped or anything like
No,
that.
I was not felt up in any way, shape, or form.
Jody did, though. Because we had the IR camera going, and she talks about the spirit touching her shoulder,
Right.
her neck, her leg. And she's the only person on the trip that claimed to be touched.
Is that you touching my back, Sharif? Or Paul? I'm sorry. It's difficult, isn't it?
She did come out of the basement, but we left the IR camera down there, stationary. So we got some more orbs for the basement. Could be dust. See what you think of these orbs.
With her coughing, could that have been throwing some dust up? Because she coughed right before that happened.
Yeah.
Could be. And it also looks like one of them dust orbs, more like snow floating and falling.
Right, just floaty, didn't have a movement to it.
It's just interesting,
Yeah.
Because the EVP and her being touched. To finish off our trip, we went from the basement. We came up from the basement. We went back up to the attic. And so we tried to do an EVP session. Of course, we still had the Perilous. And I bring this out because I think...
really wanted that bear to move.
And it never did.
She really wanted that bear to move.
I wish it would have. I think, didn't we get K2 responses up here too?
Like, a little.
But we didn't get an EVP, unfortunately. But on the Perilous, which I thought was really interesting, because take a look at that bear. And I think I said something to the effect of, do you like that bear? And it responded, lunatic, on the Perilous. Look at that bear. If you were a child, like from 1800.
They didn't have neon pink and yellow and purple and teddy bears then.
Exactly.
I think that's a bit of a stretch.
I thought it was, there's a couple incidences where the Perilous just strikes me as strange. Well, anyway, that's the Morse Mill Hotel. I love the place.
It was fun.
Can't wait to go back. And they've claimed that...
Well, once they get it to a better breakfast standpoint, I'd love to stay the night.
Oh, me too. It's going to be in the same category as Lemp Mansion in my personal. I mean, if people knew... St. Louis history, people are more interested in than Jefferson County history. But, John Morse was just as established of a industrialist and entrepreneur as the Lemps. He didn't commit suicide, but I think he was significant. I love the place. I can't wait to go back. They've located what they think now is a tunnel under that basement that comes from the cistern. It goes like 22 feet down and goes out to the river where I think the ice house used to be. Imagine what Al Capone probably had done in that tunnel.
Probably just move some alcohol.
Oh yeah, definitely. He might even have something hidden, money. Who knows?
Couple dead bodies.
But wasn't there something called a garrote or garrote or something that they?
A garrote.
Is that it that gangsters use to murder people? No, it's like this
great.
wire thing, and they tighten it, and it just.
Yeah. A character in a Magnus Chase book uses that as a weapon.
Cool.
What a horrific way to die.
But anyway, that's the Morse Mill Hotel. So, your first impression is you were leaning more towards me.
I am on this one. I'm a little more convinced. There are things that, after being there and seeing it now, for the average listener that is like watching this, that might not be as convinced because they can debunk it because it's easy to do that when you weren't there.
Right.
But when you're there and you actually got the feelings and the sensations from the different rooms, then just the negative feeling on that whole second floor, the vibe of the second floor really turned me off, and I just didn't really want to be there.
Next time, we're doing Zombie Road.
Zombie Road, I was not at that one.
Oh, unfortunately. You'll be at some in the future, though.
Absolutely.
Well, anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you go on YouTube and you subscribe so you can see our future episodes. Find us on Twitter. You'll find us on Facebook. Find us on Reddit. In fact, we did so well on Reddit last week that we were invited to start our own community. So we would love it if you would post your stories, join our new community, post your stories, your videos, your pictures, whatever you got, suggestions where you'd like for us to investigate. But anyway, thank you.
Bye.